What's up, guys? ATCG here. Today I want to discuss the new format since the Banlist has just been released, and I have to say it is probably the biggest and most impactful Banlist we've ever had in this game. Konami dealt with everything that was starting to become a problem. They did leave a couple stuff, but that was mainly for marketing purposes. So now I want to discuss the top 10 decks of the new format. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion. The format has by far not been solved yet, so I could be dead wrong about the order or the potential of some of these decks. Some could be much better or much worse than I'm going to say. But for now, this is pretty much what I've come up with and how I think the format is going to unfold. So let's begin. The 10th deck is Subterror. Now, I know a lot of people might think that this deck is going to be a lot stronger this format because a lot of other decks got weakened and it's a control deck that tries to keep the other decks down to its level so it can outgrind them. But keep in mind, this deck probably got hit the worst by limiting terraforming because it's a very inconsistent deck. It relies on cards like Duality and Extravagance to get to its plays, and if it does not see Hidden City, then its plays are pretty much very mediocre. So one less terraforming means that you do have even less power to start your combos very early. So I think this deck, it might work, but I don't think it'll be consistent enough for players to want to mess with it very much in big events. Now for number 9, I have Salamangreats. I think Salamangreat is the biggest loser of the July ban list. It lost 4 starter cards. Not only does this hit consistency, but with limiting Gazelle, it also hits a grind game. It relies a lot more on Stalio and Signet mining right now, which makes it a lot more vulnerable to hand traps. So you might be forced to use a rank 3 engine and make Stalio in the extra monster zone to try and get Gazelle. But if your Stalio gets Veilered, if it's stuck in the extra monster zone, then you can't do anything else. You can't summon Balings, you can't go for Sunlight Wolf. So your turn will pretty much stop there. It will make any traps you have dead for this turn. So I think it has a lot of problems right now. People are still going to play it because it's a budget deck and a lot of people, everyone can afford it, but I don't think the deck can get very far in events. Similarly, at number 8, we have Sky Striker. Now, Sky Striker might be in a better position on the Salamangreat, but I think it's still a big loser of the July ban list. People say that hitting multi-roll to 1 hits the recovery of the deck. That's true, but keep in mind that multi-roll was also consistency for the deck. It can combo out with Area Zero to get to Ray, which was sometimes the only play you had to get to Ray and make your Link monsters. Not only that, it also makes your deck more vulnerable to hand traps because with one multi-roll, you will not have the protection from Ash Blossom when you use cards like Engage, or your opponent will be able to respond when you use cards like Widow Anchor, and Eagle Booster, or Shark Cannon. Now your opponent can be more interactive with you when you play Sky Strikers. And also, since multi-roll is at 1, you will hardly ever see it now in your opening hand, so you will have to waste a search with the Engage to get to multi-roll first and then get to the rest of your cards. So that also hinders you for what you can do. Limiting terraforming also hits the consistency a bit. It makes it so you can get to 3 spells. It's a bit harder than before. Also, limiting Metaverse, it means that the deck cannot even rely on Mystic Mine anymore to stall and until it sees its power card, so it can close out the game. So I think Sky Striker, it might be proven wrong about this deck, but I think at number 8 is where it stands right now. Now I'm starting to count down the winners of the ban list, and that's why they're in higher positions. Number 7, we've got Necros. Necros, not only did it get shorted back at 2, which I'm not even sure if it's relevant anymore. I don't see people playing 2. But they might, because it searches Bryonac and Trishula stops Impermanence, which was the only thing that can counter Unicorn, which shuts down all of the combo decks. But I think Necros thrives in a format where there are a lot of very good combo decks and not a lot of control decks. It's really bad against control decks because it's easily outgrinded. But against control decks, when you can just shut down your opponent's plays on the first turn if you go first, that's pretty much what Necros need to do in this format. And as you're going to see from this list, when I explain the top tier decks, you'll see why I think Necros has a really good matchup and really good opportunities to thrive in such a format. Number 6, Cyber Dragons. Cyber Dragons have been using Levianir, which a lot of people were saying that is going to get limited. It did not, so Cyber Dragons are still very good. Levianir is a very powerful card. Naxter can also bring back the Girsu, which has 2100 defense, so that's also something really good for the deck. It's really good at auto-decaying. It has decent plays going first, so it can bring out 1 or 2 negates. And I think Cyber Dragons has always been this underdog deck that always shows up here and there and tries to do something. Now it's an even better opportunity for it to do something. Because again, against combo decks, it's a really good going second deck because it's really, really strong at breaking boards using cards like Mega Fleet. Now for the top 5, we're starting with True Draco. True Draco lost 1 terraforming, but the most important thing, it got back 2 more Solemn Judgments. And that fixes the problem of the deck. The problem of True Draco is that it loses to side deck. It loses to Evenly Match, it loses to Red Reboot. With 3 Solemn Judgment, the deck is going to be so much more resilient to side deck and be much better going second or going into games 2 and 3, and not just auto lose when your opponent sides in all those Twin Twisters, all back removal, and you know the rest. So I think True Draco is going to be amazing this format. It's a really good control deck. It always has been, and it always will be, since Konami doesn't decide to hit it, and it wants it to be in the format for whatever reason. So I think you have to expect a lot of True Draco. The Floodgates will stop all those combo decks. Again, it had really bad matchup against Sky Striker and Salamangreat. These have gotten a lot weaker against decks that we'll talk about later. True Draco is amazing, but I still think it's just worth the number 5 slot because the other decks are a little bit more. They can do their stuff a little bit better. Number 4, Orcas. Orcas lost Bardiche, but that does not kill the deck. It just changes its playstyle a little bit. Before, you were just relying on one single combo to get like 4 negates on board, and your opponent had to deal with it. Right now, Orcas is going to be more of a grind deck that facilitates a lot of its plays by summoning back Dingirsu and attaching your simple skeleton from the banish zone. So you can do the same thing over and over again. You will just slowly push through your opponent while setting 1 crescendo or using 1 bubble each turn to have 1 negate. And of course, you will have to incorporate hand traps right now because some builds in the previous format did not play hand traps because it was considered a combo deck. But right now, it's a demi situation between a combo or a control deck. But right now, I think Orcas is going to be really good. I don't think it got hit that much by the ban list. Konami did the perfect thing they could do because they wanted to push Orcas with the new reprints of Ulti Dingirsu, the Super Harp Horror, and Orcas Nightmare, and they did exactly what they needed to do to keep the deck alive by not making it the Tier 0 format with just only Orcas. And now for the top 3. Number 3, Altergeist. People say Altergeist got hit. I completely disagree. If Multifaker had been a 3 in this format, I might have put Altergeist number 1. But keep in mind that we have now Almiraj. And Almiraj means that Sangan is a starter for the deck. So take away 2 Multifakers and put in 3 Sangans. So that's 1 more starter than before. Multifaker is not as important for the deck as is Salamangreat Gazelle, because even if you banish it late game, if you have established your board, you don't need it anymore. You can just play with what you have. And similar to True Draco, 3 Solemn Judgments are mandatory for this deck because it's another trap heavy based deck that loses to side deck. Cards like Twisters, Red Reboot, and Evenly just destroy Altergeist. Even Denko Seka when you're playing against decks that don't need a normal summon, that have all these combo decks. So Solemn Judgment makes the deck a lot more resilient to side deck. Altergeist had really good game 1, but it struggled game 2 and 3. Now it's going to be even easier to deal with your opponent's games 2 and 3. So that's why I think Altergeist is going to be really good this format. And it might... Konami might need to hit it again. I think the top 3 decks are the ones that are going to be needed to get hit going through this format. But we've got 3 months until then, so we've got to enjoy what we already have. Number 2, Pendulum Guard Dragons. Guard Dragons did not get hit at all. Banning Eclipse Wyvern was mainly focused towards Danger Thunder because that's the only deck that used it. Pendulum is pretty much at the best point has ever been for a while right now. The deck can go second and OTK very easily. Some people have been using Utopia Double, which is really easy to make in this deck. The deck can go first and make unbreakable boards with Guard Dragon Engine and the Mythical Beasts. yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Pendulums are just insane, this format. You can just do whatever you want with a deck, and it plays around hand traps very easily. The only problem is two more solemn judgments. That may be an issue going second against decks like True Draco and Altergeist to just stop your pendulum summon, and that will be pretty much it. But smart players will figure out ways to play around solemns, because solemns were never that big of a problem ever since Pendulum Evolution came out and Pendulum Magicians make their debut and made it so that when they're destroyed, you get more effects. So there are ways to play around solemns when you're playing pendulums. And the number one, I think, is going to be the best deck of the format, Crusadia Thunder Guard Dragons. We've seen that this deck can do so much. It's very resilient hand traps. Yes, it did lose a lot. It did lose two Ivor Bursters, two Collapse Serpents, three dangers, three of the good dangers, and Eclipse Wyvern, which I think was a little bit irrelevant because Brotor is still a thing. But this deck can incorporate so many of the Dragon engines. It has a lot of extenders. We have Tempest now, which I'm not sure about Konami and banning Tempest, but we'll see how this goes. So the deck still has a lot of plays. You can play with or without Thunder Dragons, which is very much debate right now because some say that Thunder Dragons are very essential because they bring you more negates. Some say they win more and they're the bricks of the deck. But the players will figure out how to play this deck efficiently eventually. So we'll have to wait and see for that. But yeah, that's my opinion. Like I said before, this is very much on the air right now. I could be completely wrong about some of these, or I could be completely right about the order, but we'll just have to wait and see. So, thanks for watching, guys. Leave us your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think are going to be the best decks of the format? How do you think the format is going to be solved? And we'll have to wait for some big events to see how things will actually turn out. So, yep, thank you for watching. See you next time.